At a certain point, another $1 million doesn't make anything newly affordable. That's when other motivations take over. As the number of millionaires and billionaires in the world climbs even higher, there are a growing number of people who possess more money than they could ever reasonably spend on even the lushest goods. But at a certain level of wealth, the next million isn't going to suddenly revolutionize their lifestyle. So what drives people once they've reached that point to keep pursuing more? Well, in today's video, we'll be discussing exactly why billionaires are hungry for money. But before we get into the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you don't miss any of the new videos we post. There are multiple explanations as to why really rich people are still motivated to get more money. Michael Norton, a Harvard Business School professor who has studied the connections between happiness and wealth, had a particularly elegant model for understanding this pattern of behavior. Norton says that research regularly points to two central questions that people ask themselves when determining whether they're satisfied with something in their life. Am I doing better than I was before? And am I doing better than other people? This applies to wealth, but also to attractiveness, height, and other things that people fret about. But the problem is, Norton says, a lot of the things that really matter in life are hard to measure. So if you wanted to be a good parent, it's a little hard to know if you're being a better parent now than you were a year ago. It's also hard to know if you're a better parent than the neighbors. So people turn to dimensions of comparison that can be quantified. Money is a terrific one, Norton says. If I need to know if I'm doing better than I was, the easy thing to ask is, am I making more money? Or does my house have more square feet? Or do I have more houses than I used to? This instinct to measure and compare doesn't disappear once people have an obscene amount of money. The problem is, am I doing better than I was, is only one direction, which is up, Norton says. And if a family amasses, say, $50 million but upgrades to a neighborhood where everyone has that much money or more, they feel a lot less rich than if they had stuck to the peer comparisons they were making tens of millions of dollars ago. Hence the ever-shifting goalposts of wealth and satisfaction. Harvard Business School professor Michael Norton has studied the links between wealth and happiness. The research that he has conducted illustrating this phenomenon is quite dispiriting. Research shows that income is positively correlated with happiness, especially as people move from worrying about having enough to meet their basic needs to feeling more financially secure, he stated. In a paper published earlier this year, he and his collaborators asked more than 2,000 people who have a net worth of at least $1 million, including many whose wealth far exceeded that threshold, how happy they were on a scale of 1 to 10. And then how much more money would they need to get to 10? All the way up the income-wealth spectrum, Norton told me. Basically, everyone said they'd need 2 or 3 times as much to be perfectly happy. In another study from Purdue University, it was found that happiness increases with wealth up until a point. When you reach $108,000, you'll be at your highest level of emotional well-being. And when you reach an income of $137,000, you're likely at the happiest you'll be in terms of life satisfaction. After this point, increases in income tend to come with lower happiness. And while Norton noted that spending money on charity and gifts also contributes to more happiness than purchasing material goods, that still isn't always enough to get the rich to lower their wealth profile. In an analysis, it was found that for the average billionaire with a fortune of $2.9 billion, $1,964 is to them what $1.45 is to the average American. That means that the average billionaire with a $1,723 dinner for two at a renowned restaurant in Massa, New York City would cost a comparative $1.30, and a $34,500 first-class round-trip ticket from New York to Sydney would cost relative $25 to such a billionaire. So when you not only have the best of the best, but the best of the best in bulk, where do you go from there? Well, that's when you start competing based on the sheer size of your wealth. When people make more income, they also tend to move places where others make more income, and so the only way to claim victory is keep making more money, Norton said. Jeffrey Winters, a professor of political science at Northwestern University and the author of Oligarchy, said that in addition to social comparison, really rich people are often motivated to acquire more money by the thrill that comes with multiplying one's fortune by making investments, buying up businesses, and so forth. For those of us who make wages that have expenditures that we are trying to meet, a mortgage, pay our health insurance, food, whatever happens to be in our kids' tuition, we link the making of money to our expenses, he says. Meanwhile, many ultra-wealthy people use their money to make money, he says, an exciting, status-enhancing process. Those two ways of putting money to use, as a way of covering expenses or as a way of building a bigger fortune, come with two different points of diminishing returns. Say you wanted to have a mega yacht plus 6 mansions in 6 different locations around the world, Winters says. You could probably do all of that fairly comfortably with a few $100 million. It's different if the goal is to keep accumulating, in which case there is no number at which you have enough, Winters says. He adds, every billionaire I've spoken to, and I've spoken to quite a number of them, is extremely excited by each additional increment of money. Along with Winters and Norton, novelist Gary Steingart has also first-hand experience seeing how rich people think about their wealth. Steingart cultivated friendships with more than a dozen highly wealthy, mostly male hedge funders, the sorts of people who say they're allergic to flying commercial and who will hire chief financial officers to manage their family's abundant wealth. They've reached the point where you have all the money you ever really need for anything, and the things that they can buy are not that expensive compared to what they have, he told me. The gull-wing Tesla, the latest Tesla. I don't know what it costs, but it's not that much if you have $100 million. One thing Steingart noticed after spending time with this crowd was how competitive they are. They'd compete against one another on their Bloomberg terminals all day, and then at the end of the day, they would play competitive poker with each other, he says. The spirit of one-upmanship pervaded even the donations they made to charities. Steingart speculates that underneath this competitiveness is a need to seem smarter and more capable than their peers. Managers of hedge funds can sometimes get rich from making one or two bets that had no more to do with luck than anything else, which might make them feel like their intelligence is in question, even if their money stands as evidence of their professional success. Steingart also witnessed the hedge funders making the sort of social comparisons that Norton and Harrington described, treating money as a so-called scorecard. He remembers one of them saying something along the lines of, "We don't have bestseller lists and book awards. What we have is this, the number at the end of the day." The whole experience did not leave Steingart feeling good. Here were people who could purchase anything they could ever want and whose wealth was widely envied, and even they weren't content. Just as these researchers studying happiness and wealth might have predicted, at the end of the day, Steingart told me, I was just happy to end this research because it was quite depressing. Using an analogy, money is somewhat like alcohol. Living inside bubbles, the rich need greater excess to feel just the same high, and Stephen Berglas, a psychologist, executive coach, and author, said, if you're an alcoholic, you're going to take 1 drink, 2 drinks, 5 drinks, 6 drinks to feel the buzz. Well, when you get to $1 million, you need $10 million to feel like a king. Money is an addictive substance. Feeding the addiction becomes even more challenging in a top-heavy economy where the price tags of the status symbol keeps adding zeros. For the super rich looking to buy their way into professional sports, it's no longer enough to have courtside seats or a luxury box. You need a team. They're pricey. The Golden State Warriors, for example, sold in 2010 for an NBA record $450 million to an ownership group headed by Joe Lacob, a Silicon Valley venture capitalist. The team is now valued at $3.5 billion. Even that is not enough. Now you have to build the biggest, flashiest arena. For example, the Warriors owner recently put the finishing touches on a gleaming new waterfront arena in San Francisco called the Chase Center. It was financed largely by themselves for $1.4 billion. Not to be left behind, Steve Ballmer, the former Microsoft chief and owner of the rival Los Angeles Clippers, is now seeking to build a $1 billion pleasure dome of his own in Inglewood, California. With that said, it's time to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching.